Hello, humans. Okay, I got an interesting one to talk about today, and that is why can't we stick to an exercise routine? Now, as for those of you who know me, I like to think of everything in terms of the IC solution, which is something I developed to help me stop drinking. I was drinking myself into oblivion and I could not stop. It got so bad that over an 8-year period, I had to check myself into a detox so many times. And then I found after trying everything out there, I found something that worked for me, and I call it the IC solution. The IC is the instinctual core. Let me give you a quick recap of what that is. Okay. And here I want to show you what I call the IC default perspective versus the IC perspective. And then you'll figure out what the IC is. And so the default perspective is kind of the perspective of what's going on inside of our heads when the way we were just default. If we don't ever think about it, we think that all our thoughts, all our emotions, and all the things the actions that we carry out due to those thoughts and emotions are who we are our own. I mean, they're all in our head, right? Our thoughts should be who we are, and our emotions should be who we are. But that really wasn't working out for me because I had these two conflicting voices in my head at all times when I was trying to quit drinking. One saying, I'm never drinking again, that's going to kill me, and I want to live. And another voice screaming, you're a piece of crap, you're no good, don't ever get out of line, do something to get out of line. Life is scary. Now drink, 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 because that's the solution. I think I could never obviously count it, but I would probably think about 7,000 times a day. There's this voice inside my head telling me to drink. So um, I was pushed into the 12 steps of AA a whole bunch of times. And that didn't work for me. And if it works for you, that's fantastic. I'm all for it. Go with that. It's been around forever. But quite frankly, it fails 92% of the time. So just be wary if that's what you go into, there's a good chance that it won't work. And someone who tells you just keep on trying, try it differently, think about it harder, think about it less. You're trying too hard, you're trying too much, whatever. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Anyway, so what the IC solution is rather than with the 12 steps of AA, you kind of the first step is kind of to admit that you're powerless, and then find a higher power of your choosing to come in and help you out. And that connection is great. If you can make that connection, I couldn't, no matter how hard I literally tried. So with the IC solution, rather than saying that you're powerless, it's saying we're talking about saying that you're good. You good, human. Human, you got it all together. But there's this thing inside of us that I call the IC, the instinctual core. And this is a culmination right over here. It's a different perspective where we are our consciousness along with our conscious brain. And then there's a vast thing, subconscious, that's basically running the show 90% of the time. And then there's a totally separate character altogether, which I call the instinctual core, which is made up of a culmination of our survival instincts that uses this subconscious brain. So it's basically working pretty much totally outside of your conscious awareness. And now you might be thinking, why would I want to separate from this thing that is that's a culmination of my survival instincts? Those help me survive, right? Well, actually, they're not helping us survive in this world. All our survival instincts were built for a prehistoric world, a world that doesn't exist anymore, a world where our tribe was about 100 people, a world where our world was about 100 square miles, a world where there were real life threats to your survival every single day. That's not the world we live in anymore, but that same thing is still looking for threats, necessary survival threats that we have to escape or to destroy, and it's still looking for necessary survival treats that we have to attain in order to make sure we'll be alive next week. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't changed in any way, but our world has changed, and it doesn't know how to act in this world. And that's the kind of the way I look at everything to make changes. And I've been able, ever since I quit drinking 8 years ago, when I started developing this, I've been able to find a way to pretty much change anything about my life that I wanted. But one thing I was research kind of trying to figure out, we start an exercise routine and how can I relate it to the IC? And so the powerful part, step back a second. The powerful part about the IC solution is that we can start to look at the IC, the instinctual core, this beautiful guy down here, as separate from us. And when you separate from it, although as a separate intelligence, it just happens to be inside your head, rather than just like, and it's like barking at you, like a puppy would to try and get up on the bed, right? It just happens to be in your head. So this thing, when I started looking at that, whenever I heard that a voice to go get a drink, I could rationalize why the instinctual core would need that drink. And usually it was because it saw fake threats, false threats, and the alcohol was the solution that enabled me to overcome all of those false threats. So in the beginning, I used to drink because I thought I was, party guy. But eventually I kept on drinking when other people were quitting because there's this thing inside of me that needed it to get rid of that anxiety, the bullshit lies inside of these threats that just didn't exist. And I've been able to control so many things. But then when it came to an exercise program, I'm like, why doesn't the IC want us to get out? Why does the IC want us to be sitting on the couch? Okay, and I know there's a lot of elements in here, like if we're eating like crap, we don't have the energy. If we have toxic emotions going on, we don't. But uh, complicated things like we don't feel good about ourselves. But on a very basic level, even if everything is going right, the instinctual core, I want to show you kind of how I map out everything the instinctual core does. Okay, and this is the IC user's guide. And if you haven't seen it before, it's pretty basic. It's basically this is us. This is our consciousness with our conscious self. This is the instinctual core. This is the activation filter. Everything that goes through our sensory inputs passes through here, and the instinctual core is looking for not only immediate threats, but threats on these different layers. The physiological, the safety. Safety is not like an immediate threat. That safety is like making sure you have a house over your head tonight, because if not, you'll be eaten by a bear. Belonging is making sure that your tribe still appreciates you so you don't get tossed out of the tribe, because that would be an actual reason you would die. But now we still need to feel that need that love and belonging, because there's that instinctual core that says we need it. So those are a couple examples, but we're talking about an exercise routine. Okay, the last part is this external reaction over here. The instinctual core is always trying to get us to do one of three things: destroy a threat, avoid a threat, or attain a treat. Now, when I was thinking about, and it uses all of these powerful emotions and thoughts to get us to do it at once, depending on alarm. So basically, you set off an alarm on the belonging layer, toss out some fear and some anger and some demands and judgments and cravings, and there you have it. You're hijacked. Okay, I'm not going into that. I'm wondering, why can't we get off the couch if everything else is fine? It doesn't fit in this scenario of escape a survival threat, uh, avoid a survival threat, or attain a survival treat. And I was like thinking, but in a way, it absolutely does. Okay, and that's because when there are no current imminent threats to our survival, the IC, this guy, wants to ensure our survival by making sure we rest when we don't have imminent threats, making sure we sit on that couch and binge some TV. Getting up would involve expending energy that's not necessary, so you won't have the energy to escape the threat or destroy the threat or attain the treat when you need to. So in this case, it's still trying to achieve all of these things by saving up energy to do so. And it does so in a very subtle way. Now, what we think is us feeling lazy sitting on the couch is the instinctual core saying, please rest right now. Even though you don't need to fall asleep right now, you don't need to just save your energy right now. And it sends that in the form of cravings, just like hunger is a craving. It sends kind of what we would feel as laziness. On top of it, it sends, sit in judgments, not really judgments, but more like demands. Yeah, keep on sitting on the couch. Don't go. Stay there. Don't go to the exercise thing. Okay, and then on top of it, So that's how the IC was hijacking me. And what was cool is after I just kind of got into a routine and overran that thing that said, like, and it especially happens right when you wake up. Even if you got in your 8 hours, you feel exhausted, and the IC is saying, uh, don't do anything. All you need to do to wake up is actually get in the gym and start moving. Once you overcome that, then you can get into it. And now there's another element to this. It's like, what if we just actually hate our exercise routine? Okay, then it becomes a chore. And then it becomes like, oh, I gotta go do that. And that's when you want to deactivate this IC side. You do that just by questioning the IC whenever it says, no, we'd rather you sit on the couch, because you never would rather sit on the couch. And then you say, let's get unhijacked. And instead, let's activate our human side. And the thing is, if your exercise routine sucks and you hate it, you're still not going to get it. You've got to figure out how to light up your exercise routine on the layers of human happiness. You've got to find something you're intrigued in. And there's so many exercises that just can become hobbies, from skiing to running to biking to skating to swimming to, and worst case scenario, actually getting in the gym and beating the shit out of yourself. That's what I love the most, is like, how far can I push myself? Think David Goggins, his joy, his pure engagement is just keep on going and enjoying the suck. If you can get to the point where you want to be there just to enjoy the suck and see how far you can push yourself, then you can enjoy any hobby. But in the meantime, if you ain't down with that, just go for something like, just find a sport that you love. There's so many out there that give you exercise. So, and then you can find intrigue in improving slowly over time. You can find appreciation in whatever sport you happen to be, and then engagement involves just getting in the flow, getting truly into something, and feeling this selflessness where you are fully involved in something. Obviously, it involves a layer of self-improvement because exercise makes you live longer. And if you're doing it with others, you don't need to light all of these up at the other time. But when exercise then becomes something that makes you happy, it's something you want to do, guess what? It's going to be a lot easier to do it. So I talked about how the instinctual core wants you to sit on the couch, how you can overcome that by overriding that feeling when it's saying, just be late, just sit on the couch. You don't want that. Your overriding decision is you want to be exercising. And then that's the deactivation, the retraining of the IC. But then you reactivate yourself by finding something that you actually have a passion in, even if it's just straight up enjoying the suck. Okay, so that's my story for today. I've got a whole bunch of lessons that I'm posting. Not all of them make a whole bunch of sense. I've been developing the solution for better part of 8 years, and I've been sober almost 9 years. But I'm finally getting to the point where I'm posting daily about it, because the solution is ready at the Instinct Center, instinctcenter.com, to handle as many people, so we can start investigating our own instinctual cores, working together, having accountability together, and as a substitution for those that aren't liking the spiritual approach and support group meetings. And then, but in the meantime, if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it. I'd like you back, and subscribe, because I'm trying to get at least 2 new videos out every single day. Yeah, that's all I got for today. So I will see you tomorrow. Adios. Okay. And I won't be editing this, so because I'm just getting started, I want to get as many out there. I'm getting practiced at talking and getting through those bumbling. So please forgive all that. But I appreciate you. Adios.